Get out of this house right now. The voice of Mr. Sterling, chairman of Sterling Industries, echoed through the marble foyer. It was as cold and sharp as a knife, cutting through the early morning silence. When you've learned how to spend money and what the word respect means, you can come back. Leo, his only son, was still stunned from being dragged out of bed, standing frozen. He was in silk pajamas, his hair a mess, his face still heavy with sleep. He had just gotten home at 4 a.m. from another endless party. A suitcase filled with designer clothes and a gold-plated passport flew out the teakwood doors, tumbling down the steps, hitting a Roman column before stopping with an angry clang. It was followed by a stack of cash, not much, just enough to survive. Inside the magnificent 7-story mansion, the crystal chandeliers still sparkled, their light seeming to mock his pathetic state. Before Leo could even process what was happening, the heavy iron gates slammed shut with a dry, decisive thud, putting an end to his life of luxury. On the ground, next to a puddle from last night's rain, his powerful Amex Centurion card was snapped in half. Beside it was a handwritten note in his father's firm, unshakable script. 6 months of self-reliance, the Haven Volunteer Shelter District 8, don't disappoint me again. Leo was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, or more accurately, a diamond one. $20 million were waiting in a trust fund before he could even speak. His life was a series of privileges the average person couldn't imagine. At 18, while his friends were saving up for their first beat-up car, Leo flew a helicopter to college. He landed it right on the International University's soccer field, forcing hundreds of students and faculty to look up in awe. His breakfast was served in a penthouse overlooking the entire city, and dinner was always at the most exclusive clubs with top 100 DJs flown in from Ibiza just to play for him and his friends. Leo's social media was a catalog of wealth. Photos with a fleet of supercars in every color were captioned with a short, defiant, "Born rich." He changed cars like he changed clothes, each one a limited edition. The law didn't seem to apply to Leo. Pulled over 3 times for speeding on the freeway, he'd just make a call, and a lawyer would be there in 5 minutes to handle it. He'd pay double, even triple the fine, then speed off, leaving the officer with a look of helpless frustration. In an interview for a high society magazine, when asked about his philosophy on life, Leo scoffed with an arrogant smirk. Poor people, they're just lazy and lack vision. They stay poor because they don't know how to spend money to make themselves classier. It's their own fault they're not rich. The statement caused an uproar, but to Leo it was just a bit of fun. Everything came to a head on the evening of his mother's 50th birthday, a gentle and private woman. In the middle of the lavish private restaurant, Leo, on a whim, spent over $10,000 on a limited edition Richard Mille watch. He loudly declared it a gift for his crush, an Instagram model who was also at the party. But in front of everyone, she flatly refused, saying she couldn't accept such an expensive gift. Humiliated Leo didn't show any shame. Instead, he laughed, threw the watch into a glass of wine on the table and said, "Whatever I don't want is just trash anyway." His father, Mr. Sterling, witnessed the entire scene. He didn't say a word for the rest of the party, his face an icy mask. The warm birthday celebration for his mother turned heavy and silent. No one dared to laugh. Later that night, when Leo returned, his father called him into the study. There was no shouting. He just silently pushed a financial report toward his son. The red numbers danced on the page, a $5 million net loss in just 3 months from an investment deal Leo had insisted on joining and made decisions on himself. Mr. Sterling looked his son straight in the eye, his voice low but heavy with authority. "You owe your mother an apology for ruining her special day, and you owe me a lesson about life." The next morning, Leo woke up not in his plush, king-sized bed, but in a cramped room no bigger than a closet. A splitting headache hit him. The brick walls were patchy, revealing old plaster underneath. A mixed smell of dampness, stale grease, and cheap cleaning supplies hit him. Taped to the rickety wooden door was a volunteer agreement. He was here in the heart of the District 8 slums at the Haven. The Haven District 8. This place was a completely different world. Cramped brick buildings were packed together, their rusty fire escapes forming a maze against the sky. The main alley wasn't even as wide as the entrance to his mansion's garage. About 70 families were crammed into the tight space. Every morning, Leo wasn't woken by a smart alarm, but by the distant wail of sirens or the rumble of the early morning garbage truck. The bathroom was communal. Clean water had to be bought by the jug, and electricity was tracked by an old spinning meter. But this wasn't just a place of deprivation. It was also a place where homemade string lights made from painted beer cans hung in front of the window of Ms. Rosa, who sold coffee glowing like fireflies in the night. It was where kids with sun-kissed skin played stickball in the alley, their laughter sharp and clear and thick as honey. Leo stood on his small balcony looking down at the scene with a profound sense of alienation and bewilderment. On his first day of volunteer work, the job was cleaning and serving food at a soup kitchen. Leo, out of habit, wore a pair of Gucci boots and a deliberately torn Balenciaga t-shirt. He thought he had to at least maintain some style. Maria, the volunteer coordinator, a woman with a charming gap-toothed smile, looked him up and down and laughed. "Hey, kid, you got anything without holes in it? You're going to sweat right through that thing, and then we'll all have to wait while you patch it up." Everyone around them chuckled. It wasn't mean-spirited, but Leo's cheeks burned with embarrassment. He silently went back to his room and changed into a cheap t-shirt he'd bought at a corner store. That evening, he was assigned to a bunk in the spare room of Sal's apartment, an elderly man who lived alone. The room was hot and stuffy. Before bed, Sal carefully locked the door with a simple deadbolt, then pointed to an old boombox on the table and said seriously, "You can sleep, but don't you dare touch my radio. It was my wife's." Lying on the hard, thin mattress, Leo tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The sound of mosquitoes, the muffled noise of people talking in the alley below, and the smell of Sal's Bengay made him feel trapped. Leo's first meal in this working-class neighborhood was on a worn-out mat on Sal's floor. There were only 3 things on the table: a small plate of leftover pulled pork, a bowl of boiled greens, and some cornbread. 4 of them sat together, Leo, Sal, and 2 other young men who rented a room. Everyone shared the food, naturally taking a little at a time. Leo, ravenously hungry unconsciously, ate 2 servings of the pork, sopping up the sauce with his cornbread. He ate greedily, and when he took the last bite, his eyes stung. Not from the spice, but from a strange feeling welling up inside him. Seeing Leo's empty plate, Sal quietly spooned the last bit of pork onto it. "Eat up, son. You'll need your strength for tomorrow. Gotta have the energy to haul drywall with the crew." Leo was startled. He suddenly realized the strength Sal was talking about didn't just come from the pork, from the protein, but from this simple, sincere act of sharing. For the first time in his life, someone had given him something without expecting payment or favor in return. At 4:30 a.m., before the sky was even light, Leo had to get up to go with Mike, a tough-looking man with sun-beaten skin, to haul construction materials in a beat-up pickup truck. The July sun beat down like a furnace. Leo's t-shirt was soon soaked with sweat sticking to his back. The rough, heavy drywall sheets chafed his hands, which were used to holding nothing but steering wheels and wine glasses. At one point, he dropped a sheet. He bent down to pick it up, and the heat radiating off the asphalt made him dizzy. Mike saw this, stopped the truck, and pulled out a large, worn-out thermos filled with iced tea, handing it to him. "Drink up. It's not Fiji water, kid, but it'll cool you down." Without a second thought, Leo chugged the entire cup. The sharp, slightly sweet taste of the tea hit the back of his throat. An indescribable lump formed there. He almost burst into tears right there on the street. It was the taste of exhaustion, of labor, and of simple, unadorned kindness. Life went on until one day Maya, the little daughter of a neighbor, suddenly fell ill. She had a severe asthma attack and needed to be rushed to the hospital. But Maya's family was poor. They struggled to afford daily meals, let alone a hospital bill. When the news spread, the small community buzzed with activity. People started collecting money, $5 here, $10 there. Ms. Rosa from the coffee window emptied her tip jar. Maria, the coordinator, ran around trying to borrow money. Leo stood there, and for the first time in his life, he reached into his pocket and realized there was no powerful black card to save the day. An idea sparked in his mind. He quietly took a bus downtown to a luxury watch shop where he used to be a VIP client. He sold the Patek Philippe watch his father had given him for his 16th birthday. It was the only valuable thing he had left. He received a thick wad of cash and anonymously sent $5,000 to the hospital's billing department under the name A Neighbor. No one in the community knew who sent the large sum. They only knew a miracle had happened. The day Maya was discharged, Sal looked at Leo, grinned, and clapped him on the shoulder. "You put good into the world, kid," he said knowingly. "And good has a way of finding its way back to you." In October, the storm season arrived. A massive hurricane hit the city, and it rained relentlessly for 4 days and 4 nights. Water from the nearby canal began to rise, flooding the alleys. Soon the water was knee-deep. Roofs leaked everywhere. The whole neighborhood fought the flood together. Some used buckets, others used pots to bail out water. The strong ones moved furniture and put up temporary tarps. The power went out, plunging the area into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of oil lamps. The smell of dampness and sewage mixed with the sound of terrified children crying, creating a chaotic scene. In the midst of the panic, Leo was no longer the rich kid standing by. He rolled up his pants and waded through the murky black water, helping everyone lift their belongings. He saw a small child shivering on top of a cabinet, crying silently in fear. Without hesitation, Leo lifted the child, placed him on a makeshift raft, and clumsily comforted him. "It's okay, don't cry. I'll buy you a donut tomorrow." In that very moment, holding a small, trembling life in his arms, Leo realized he had never felt so needed by others and had never needed others so much. After the flood, life slowly returned to normal. Maya was completely healthy and ran over to find Mr. Leo every day. The neighborhood kids started to follow him around. The way the neighbors looked at him now was completely different. It was no longer the curious, scrutinizing gaze for the rich boy, but the affectionate, familiar look for our Leo. He felt a lightness in his heart as if he had just paid off an invisible debt, the debt of his arrogance and thoughtlessness. That night, Leo used Sal's old flip phone to call his father. He had hesitated for a long time. When the other end picked up, Mr. Sterling's voice was still cold. "Hello." Leo took a deep breath, his voice trembling. "Dad, I know I was wrong. I understand the value of money and hard work now." There was a long silence on the other end. So long that Leo thought his father had hung up. Then he heard his father's voice a little warmer. "Come home, son. When you truly understand that money is just a tool, but humanity is the final destination." The 6 months were up, but Leo decided to stay. He didn't go home right away. He felt he still had something left to do. He used the small amount of money he'd saved from his construction work and the rest of the watch money to open a tutoring class right in the neighborhood. He taught math and English to the poor children who couldn't afford school. His daily schedule was completely transformed. He woke up at 4:30 a.m. not to come home from a party, but to brew a $1 coffee from the corner store and sit at a rickety wooden table to prepare his lessons. One day, a luxury car pulled up at the end of the alley. A man in a suit, his father's assistant, got out and offered to take him home. Leo just smiled and said, "Thanks, but I can walk. The walk will do me good." He had learned how to cook a complete meal, how to patch a bike tire, and most importantly, how to smile with genuine warmth when no one was looking at the watch on his wrist. Last night, Sal's phone received a text message for Leo. "You can come home anytime. Your mother and I are waiting at the gate." Leo read the message, his heart warming, but he still had one last class to teach the kids. On the rickety makeshift stage next to the old, worn-out blackboard, he looked down at 15 pairs of wide, eager eyes fixed on him. He asked, "Do you all know what the most valuable thing in life is?" Maya, the little girl he had helped, quickly raised her hand. "Sir, it's getting to go to school." Leo smiled, a truly gentle smile. "No, To me, the most valuable thing is to be loved and to be grateful for what you have. It's a hot meal. It's a shoulder to lean on when you're tired. It's the smile of someone you helped. That is true wealth. Leo's story is a journey of finding oneself in a place of ultimate material lack, but of abundant human connection. Now it's your turn. What makes you truly grateful when you wake up each morning? Is it an expensive material gift, or the feeling of being needed, being loved, and being part of a community? Leave a comment and share the life lesson that changed you the most. And if you found this story meaningful, please share it. You never know, somewhere out there, someone might need this exact story to find their courage and start their life over.